What's up, guys? This is TheKephas. So I am really excited today, you guys, because I am finally ready to show you my finished adventure mode UI for WoW Classic. Now, I've done a UI video in the past for Classic. It was kind of when Classic first came out to show off what I had done so far with what mods were available. But since then, a lot more mods have become available, and I've been able to do a lot more, and I'm very happy now. I've even got controller support as an option for my UI, which I am currently using, which I am loving. It kind of lets me have a modern UI for a classic game that I love very much. And that's kind of the idea here. That's what I wanted to go with. I wanted to kind of create a sort of adventure mode or action mode for WoW and kind of give it that Witcher 3 vibe, or, you know, think of any other, you know, third-person game. Kind of wanted to do that as much as I could. That's kind of the idea behind this. And also controller support, which means I can play casually, which I play with a controller often because of my vision. So it works out great for me, and if it's something that you might be interested in, by all means, feel free to give this a try. Most of the add-ons that I'm talking about will be obtainable through CurseForge, and obviously I'm using ElvUI and some of its plugins, which I will have linked to both of those places in the description below, as well as all of my profiles that I'm going to talk about. There will be links to all that stuff in the description, so if you want to add this to your UI or give this someone a try, by all means, feel free to download that stuff and check it out. So, obviously, the first thing that we want to go over is the camera. Now, Action Cam is available for Classic, which is really nice. So, Dynamic Cam is also available for Classic, which is an add-on which honestly doesn't have all the functionality available to it that Retail does. That's because of Classic's, you know, changes, you know, things that need to be updated for Dynamic Cam. And fortunately, there is someone who is actually working on the Dynamic Cam mod for Classic, which is really nice. You can get that at GitHub. I will have a link to that in the description below, of course. But mainly what I use Dynamic Cam for right now is just to keep Action Cam turned on. That's about it. It doesn't really do anything else that I can find so far, so I don't think you even need a profile. You just need to have Dynamic Cam on with Action Cam turned on. That way you don't have to go in each time and put the console command in to turn Action Cam on. This will just turn on its full functionality and let you go. So that's how you get the camera kind of off to the side like that. That's through Dynamic Cam. Get that, turn it on, you're good to go if you want it. So it's an option. If not, you don't have to have it. You can still use the rest of the UI, obviously. So the other main thing that we want to go over is ElvUI. Now, ElvUI is kind of the key part to this UI. Even if you're not using a controller, I will have actually two profiles for you. So I will have one ElvUI profile for adventure mode without a controller, and that will just basically have more normal looking action bars, maybe a couple minor changes to the UI. I like to experiment with different things. I think with the non-controller version of ElvUI profile, I think I've got like my XP bar up here with the unit frame, and there may be a couple other minor things that are different, but overall it's basically the same idea. And then of course we will also have a profile for controller, which is achieved through a mod called ConsolePort, but we'll get into that in just a second. So the main thing with ElvUI, obviously, is that it allows me to customize the entire UI with one add-on, so I don't have to have like 10 different mods. I don't have to have like Xpearl and Bartender and Mapster and all these other add-ons. I can do everything with one add-on, and that's what I love about ElvUI. It's very easy to customize. Honestly, like a lot of times people ask, like, you know, how do I do this, that? It's like, just take the time to go through each module and you will find it. It's in there. Just take the time to work on it and create the UI that you want, or you can just use mine, of course. That's also an option. So, obviously, you can see up at the top left, you can see my unit frames. It's got my health, my mana, my pet's health, his happiness, which I had to put a little command in for, which, you know, will be in the profile if you download the profile, so that's fine. And then, of course, my buffs are also right under my portrait. If you are in a group, that will all be here, whether it's a 5-man, a 10-man, 20-man, 40-man, it will all be right in this area here. Okay, so that's good. You know, I'm not in a group right now, so you can't see that, but you get the idea. And then, of course, you can kind of see that my portrait is actually a little bit different here than it would be in normal ElvUI, and that's achieved through a plugin for ElvUI called Binnick UI, and that allows me to have this different portrait. I like the way it looks. It just it's a nice profile. And then, of course, I think it's also what allows me to disconnect my my mana bar from, you know, the health bar, which allows me to get the sort of a slightly different look, which I really like. So Binnick UI is necessary if you want to have this look. And then of course Binnick UI also provides this this data bar, data text thingy. That's what they're called, data text. This data text here, which shows my XP percentage. Now, this XP percentage is provided through X to level, which you would need if you want to get this data text in this bar or whatever. So that's another add-on that I'm using. Again, you know, CurseForge, you can find it there. I've got most of the data text feature or X to level features turned off, with the exception of this. I just like to be able to see my percentage for my level, and that's why I have it there. So that's kind of the idea. Then, of course, I've got ammo. As a hunter, that's what this shows me. And then, of course, if I was a warlock, it would show me how many shards I have. If you're neither one of those classes, this will be blank. You can put something else here. And, of course, if you don't like what data texts I'm using, you can go in and switch them to whichever ones you want. And then the right one is durability. I have those there. And then this data bar above that is Location Plus, which is another plugin that you can get for ElvUI. So Location Plus, main thing is that it shows your current location and then the coordinates. I like the way it looks. I like having it at the top of my screen. It's very handy. And then the data bar on the left, the data text is my gold, and then it also shows gold for all of my alts. And then the one on the right is the current time. So having all that right there is nice. I like to keep the one from Binnick UI, the one below Location Plus. I like to have that transparent. That way I don't have like a big block of bars like at the top of my screen. I just thought it looked a little bit better. And of course, if you don't want those data texts at all, you can turn all that off. You don't even have to download Location Plus if you don't want that on. So it's entirely up to you what you do. But just know that there will not be any location information on your minimap because I've got it through Location Plus. I've got it all turned off through the minimap. So speaking of which, you're probably wondering, where is the minimap? So normally, let's go into ElvUI real quick. I'll show you. Type ElvUI, and then we'll go ahead and toggle anchors. Click this button here. Normally, for you, this is where your minimap will be. Top right corner. Just a square minimap. Very minimalistic. Very nice. That's where most people are probably going to want it. That's where most people are going to have it. If you download my profiles, that's exactly where it's going to be. But I am visually impaired, and so that means a couple of things. Number one, it explains why my UI might be scaled up to you. So if you're thinking, good lord, why is your UI so huge? It's because I'm visually impaired and I need a bigger UI. You can obviously scale all this down if you want to. It's very easy. You just scale down the UI, no problem. And the other thing is, I can't see a lot of things on the sides and corners of the screen. That's a problem because that's where most things tend to go in the game. You don't want to have everything in the middle of the screen. So I moved my minimap to a different location through the use of a mod called Sexy Map, which basically replaces the ElvUI minimap with a different minimap. Allows me to move it around without having to move the one through ElvUI for people that want it up in the corner. So that way I could move it differently, and I could also do a couple other little modification things to it through Sexy Map as well. It's an option, but you don't have to do that. You can just use the one through ElvUI and it's fine. So where is it? Well, I've got it hidden. If I press a button, bam, there's my minimap. I can pop it up when I want to look at it. I'm not always looking at it, so I don't always need it there. When I want to see something about it, I can pop it up, look, and then bam, get rid of it. So the idea here, it's something I learned from Final Fantasy XIV, where they have like this hybrid minimap, world map thing. They have like a world map, they have a minimap, and then they have like this third hybrid minimap thing. I liked it. It kind of goes in the middle of your screen, and I often would find myself just turning it on to see where I am, to see where I want to go, to see if there are any nodes around, to see if there are any quests around. Once I got the information I want, boom, turn it off, and now I have more screen as an option. So that's kind of the idea behind that. That's something that I personally do. You do not have to do that. You don't even need to worry about that if you're just going to use my ElvUI profile. Your minimap will be in the top right corner, as it always is. So if it's something that you want to do, it's very easy to set up. I mean, there's nothing special about what I did here. I literally just put Sexy Map in, made it the square, got rid of the weird rune-looking frame thing, put it in the middle, and added the toggle minimap button and the keybind. So it's really, really basic. So, you know, pretty straightforward stuff. Okay, so that's what the idea is there. Of course, while we have the minimap open, though, there are a couple of mods I just realized I have that I probably should explain. So there are some really handy plugins through Handy Notes, which is another mod that you can get. Handy Notes, just type in Handy Notes in CurseForge. There will be plugins. Make sure that you're obviously looking for classic plugins. But you can get a tracker which will allow you to show and hide your professions, your class trainers, vendors, if you're looking for like a repair vendor, which I always have on your mailboxes. Basically a lot of stuff that is in retail, Handy Notes has it covered for you here in Classic, which is, again, it's very handy. Like, if you're trying to find flight paths and stuff like that, Handy Notes is the mod that you're going to want to get. It will help you out tremendously. And of course, a lot of these like exclamation points, which are quests, is accomplished through Questy, which is another handy mod for finding things like that. Of course, there's a repair guy up here, which is really useful because I need to go to a repair guy right now. So that's a very handy add-on. I also recommend that you get Leatrix Plus for for some quality of life things like speeding up your looting, stuff like that. A lot of other really cool things that Leatrix Plus does. But there's also Leatrix Maps, which is this here. This is the ElvUI map, but it's also has some modifications through Leatrix Plus. It looks a little bit nicer, and it does this like thing where it shows like the parts of the map that I need to explore. It kind of darkens them a little bit, but it makes them available. And also, very handy, it shows me where the level range is for each of the zones. So that's also very handy when I'm trying to figure out where I want to level up. It's a little bit confusing if you don't already know, so this will help me know where to go. I'm in Arathi Highlands right now, which is great because it's a 30 to 40 zone and I am 33, so that's also very handy. And then it also has a couple overlapping features that the Handy Notes one provides. It'll show you flight paths and a couple other things like that. So those are two very useful mods that I recommend that you download, along with ElvUI, of course, and all that kind of stuff. Of course, all of the ElvUI stuff and most of its plugins you're going to obviously get at the ElvUI website under Classic. I'll have a link to that section for you, and you'll find everything there. Speaking of which, though, there is one that we do need to go over, another plugin. So there aren't any elites around here. And of course, this is an option. So if I target something, obviously you can see there's the nameplate, and basic ElvUI does not show the vanilla like golden dragon, silver dragon icons for rares and elites. I like having those because I'm a visual person. I like to be able to see with an icon really quickly, really quick information, what exactly I'm getting myself into in a fight. So if it's a rare or an elite, a little plus sign is not enough for me, or a little R, it's not going to work. So there is a mod you can get, a simple rare elite. I don't believe that there's a classic version for it, but I just kind of ported over the retail version and it works fine. And it will allow you to have the golden dragons available for ElvUI on the unit frames for your target frame. So that's very handy. The golden dragons are on for nameplates through ElvUI, but for some reason ElvUI doesn't have that option for unit frames. So you can download Simple Rare Elite for that. Another plugin that you might want to, that you're going to want to download for ElvUI is add-on skins, and this will do a number of things. It'll kind of take all the panels in vanilla and add the ElvUI skin over them, which is really nice, but it will also allow you to incorporate a damage meter or a threat meter in the chat frames for ElvUI. So that's also very handy. I'm using Details Damage Meter. That's the one that the profile will be incorporating. So you want to get add-on skins, and then whatever damage meter you want. I recommend Details, but you can also use Recount, SCADA, Omen, whatever you're using, and you can incorporate that into one of the chat panels, which you're also probably wondering, where the crap are your chat panels? Again, I've got them hidden. If I press a button, I can show my left chat panel. Of course, there isn't any text happening in there right now. There, we'll just pop that up there, and you can see there's chat. Now, below that, you can see I'm showing how many guildies I have online, how many friends I have online. That's useful. It's another data bar down there. I've got that available. And then, of course, I can turn chat on and off. I have it on a lot more in Classic than I do in Retail, admittedly, but I do turn it off sometimes, especially if I'm recording a video, because I don't want like some crazy chat to pop up and get myself demonetized. You never know. And also, just for looks, I have it off. I have a mod called Chat Sound, so that way I know if there's a lot of chatter going on in Guild, I can kind of turn it on, and I can start reading and get involved in chat. So, which is how I kind of do it. And then otherwise, if I'm not paying attention, I have it off. If I'm not in a group, I have it off. Then I turn it on, sometimes when I want to be more social. So it's just an option, and you can turn it on, you can turn it off. It's very handy. It's something, a keybind that you can set through ElvUI. And then, of course, on the right side, I have a right panel. I can turn it on and off, and this is where I've put the damage meter through add-on skins. So I've got it right there. It's kind of nice and long, so that way if you're in a big group, you can kind of see, where you place in the damage meter. You can turn it on and off. Of course, you don't need to have your damage meter on all the time. ElvUI is great because it allows me to turn that on and off, and allows me to have a more, open screen. I don't have a lot of crap on my screen, which is lovely. Okay, so now we have found an enemy. We're going to go ahead and attack it, and you can see a couple other little things. So go ahead, Bob, get out there, do your thing. We got him hunter's marked. We're going to kill this spider, and you can see now that a frame has popped up next to me, and this is my player nameplate. So, of course, if I get close enough, nameplate's range are a little ridiculous in Classic. But you can see that my target has a nameplate, and I also have a nameplate as well. And this is kind of like, rather than having like the entire unit frame down in my face, I can have a nameplate on the side, and it's showing my current health, my current mana, and it's very useful because it only pops up when I'm in combat or when I'm below 100% health or mana. It'll stay there until that's restored, so that way I can keep easy track of my current health and mana. Now, the 2 bars above that are accomplished through a mod called Weapon Swing Timer, which will show me, you know, if I'm using a melee weapon, that's what the bottom bar is for. The top bar is for range, and it's showing me when I can move. So the red area is when I need to stop moving because my gun's going to stop doing the swing timer. So it's very good at keeping track of when you can use your spells, when you can move. It's a very handy add-on that you can get, again, through CurseForge. And then, of course, I have it set up in a way that will show you, you know, well, it works well with how the nameplates are set up there through ElvUI. So real quick, making sure that I'm not in any danger, I'm going to open up my interface options. That whole thing is through ConsolePort, which we'll go over. And then we're going to go down to the weapon swing timer. And the way I have it set up, you will unfortunately have to set this up with each character. So you can pause right here. You can see how I've got mine set up. If you're using my profile and you are through ElvUI and you're also using weapon swing timer and you want it to look like mine, you can set this up exactly like mine. Just pause and add these values in here. And then, of course, I have target swingers turned off because I don't see a need for that right now. That might change later, but for now I've got that turned off. And then this is for ranged. Pause it again, set this up, and that will give you the 2 bars stacked on top of each other. A ranged one will be on top, obviously. Do this if you have any characters that, you know, hunters, priests, you know, anybody that uses a wand, you'll want to have this one turned on. Otherwise, you don't need this one if you're just melee. So keep that in mind. Again, set that up. It's pretty straightforward, and that way you will have the swing timers above your your nameplate whenever you're in combat, and then when you're out of combat, that stuff will turn off. If you're at full health, it'll turn off. So very handy. I kind of wanted to demonstrate that. Now, the main thing that we haven't gone over yet, obviously, well, you know what? While I'm thinking about it, there is one other add-on that we do need to go over, and that is this one. My bag add-on is DBags, which does have a plugin for ElvUI, or you can just use the base DBags add-on, which, again, CurseForge, you can find it there. Now, this is the one I use. A lot of people like to just have like one bar, like one big window bar showing all of your, you know, bags as one giant slot. That's what ElvUI base does. I use a mod called DBags, which sorts things out. That's what I prefer personally. It also combines stacks visually. So rather than having like, you know, 15 stacks of 200 arrows or whatever, or bullets, I have represented as one giant stack of 2,000 bullets, which I like better. I like to be able to, like, I don't like having a bunch of stuff, like a bunch of repetitive stuff on my screen, so I use DBags for that. That's kind of the idea there. Now, with all that out of the way, we can finally move into ConsolePort as I quickly feed Bob so he doesn't get mad at me. So ConsolePort is the add-on that allows you to play the game with a controller. I'm using a PlayStation 4 controller. You can use a Steam controller, an Xbox controller. Pretty much any controller will work through ConsolePort. And I'm not going to like show you how to set up ConsolePort because I feel like the mod page does a very good job at doing that. That information is easily available, and it will also, like, if you're not using a third-party controller mapper, button mapper like I am, you can just use the one that ConsolePort provides. It's free and it works out just fine. Just follow the instructions. You can set that up. It works exactly like it does in retail, so you can import my profile, which I will have a link to through Pastebin. Where ConsolePort will add, first off, this menu, which you can control with the D-pad, which is really nice. And then, of course, if I go down here, this is the ConsolePort section. Now, there's only a couple things that we really need to go over. And the first is, if you want to import my profile, you go to Import, Export, and then you click on Import Bindings from an external source. So click that, copy the code in here, hit Accept, and you will be good to go. That's all you have to do. Pretty straightforward. That will give you these bindings. Now you can kind of go through here and see what bindings I am currently using, and you can alter them to whatever you want them to be bound to. A couple of these are, you know, using some add-ons, particularly, we gotten some, hello guys, hang on a second, oh geez. Okay, so where was I? Those trolls are jerks. So some of these bindings are related to some add-ons, particularly ElvUI. There are a couple of bindings specifically for that, mainly the turning on and off chat. There's a couple options for that in there, but you can go through here, see what's being used, and change it accordingly if you want to. It's entirely up to you how you set this up. But anyways, if you import my profile, then you won't have to set any of that up. It's pretty straightforward stuff. So one thing I will go over is when you save your profile at any point in time, it will make it so that all nameplates are being turned on at all times. If you want to turn that off, then go into Advanced and go down to General, scroll down to where it says Nameplates. Okay, so nameplate show all, nameplate friendly NPCs, and nameplate show friends. I have all three of those turned to false. If they're true, I think those are the three that are doing it. I'm not 100% sure if it's all of them or if it's one of them, but I just make all of those false and then go down here and hit apply. It'll reload your UI and then it'll turn those off. But anytime you save your profile, it's going to do this. It's annoying, but this is the only way I know to turn off all nameplates. And then if you just want to have your target nameplates turned on, you hit V and turn them back on if you have to. So, but I don't like having all nameplates on. I don't like to see my friendly target nameplates. It's annoying. So I don't like that. It's entirely up to you though what you do. The last thing for ConsolePort is the action bar. I cannot import this. There's no way to copy this to you guys. So the best thing I can think of is I'm going to show it here and you can kind of copy everything that I'm doing. I do use the pet ring, which is on the right side here. I like the pet ring. I think it looks kind of cool. And the one for ElvUI kind of bugs out on me sometimes. So I have that turned on. I just moved it over here to the right side and just follow everything that I've got here. Pause it. We're going to scroll down now, and then you can see this. These are all the values for the action bar on the bottom on the bottom left, and you can see which ones I have turned on and which ones I have turned off. Again, just pause it, and then if you have multiple characters, it'll kind of save your profile, your action bar profile for you, and you can select each character that you pick. So just add these values in, and it should set them up. Make sure you do all of this. And you should be good to go. So that's the best way I can think of to help you guys out with setting up your action bars. So that's pretty much everything. Now, of course, I'm controlling the game with ConsolePort. I can move around. What's neat is, poor Bob. Bob died. So we're going to use ConsolePort to revive Bob. Now, ConsolePort uses Control and Shift as modifiers. So when I hold down a trigger, it changes the action bar. So if I hold down right trigger and I hit D-pad up, I'm now going to revive poor little Bob. He fell in battle, but now he's back, so he's good. And now he's upset, so I'm going to hit another button to feed him. Real quick, gotta give him some... boars can eat anything, which is very nice. And of course, we're going to walk up here, and then you can see if I hit X, I can select that guy and then loot his corpse to get some silver. So that's all done through ConsolePort, through a controller. It's very handy. I like the way it feels. I can easily turn the mouse on and off by hitting right click or right bumper for right click. That's how I do it. And then of course, I also control the camera when I'm running. I like the way it feels, man. It's just such a wonderful add-on. I love the action bar, the way I can have 8 buttons and then hit a modifier and it switches. Hit both modifiers down, it switches to more buttons. I can open up my profession tabs through it. It's a wonderful add-on to use. So it basically just uses D-pads and then the 4 face buttons with modifiers. You can get a ton of buttons through that. So it's really handy. I also have one thing I will say, I forgot to explain this. If you are playing a class that uses stances like paladins, warriors, the stance bar will be right above your action bar here through ElvUI. And then I have one other bar over here that's hidden with a mouse over. This is a few extra buttons. So I've got one for mounted. So this is hold down shift. So right trigger plus the start button. This will where I'll put my mount. And then I have hold down both triggers plus the home button, the middle button. So if it's Xbox controller, it's the Xbox button. PlayStation controller, it's the PlayStation button. So if I hold down both of those and then I hit that button, then I use my Hearthstone. So that's where that's set up. And then I have one for left trigger plus left stick, and then right trigger plus right stick for a couple of extra things. And this is usually where I put like auto attack or auto shot or feed pets. It's just some random extra buttons that, you know, I would want to use. So that's kind of the idea for that, because I don't have those buttons turned on through Action Cam. Specifically, I just use them through ElvUI. So you can put those down in that section there, and that's the idea. So, and then of course, if you go into bindings, you'll see where those are. So that's, hopefully I explained that. It might be a little bit confusing to understand where my mind is. But that's basically everything that you need to know that I can think of. It kind of covered everything. I wanted to kind of show some values so you could, you know, copy some things that you can't get through, you know, the Pastebin links and stuff like that. So you can download all this through Pastebin. You can get everything. And of course, there will be an optional profile for no console port if you don't want to play the controller, you want to play with the keyboard. Basically the same idea. You'll set a couple keybinds up for yourself. Just go into keybinds. It's pretty straightforward. And then there will just be a bunch of action bars down here in the middle. You can turn them on and off, whichever ones you want to use. You can obviously alter any of this as you see fit. Use different data bars, data texts, that kind of stuff. But pretty much everything else is, you know, out of the box. Just download the mods, add the profiles, and you should be good to go. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I really love this UI. I've been having so much fun playing WoW Classic, and having a little bit of a more modern take on the UI, allowing me to play the controller, has made it even more fun for me. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, let me know by clicking that like button, and feel free to share it with your friends so they can enjoy it as well. Don't forget, you can subscribe to the channel and click on the bell icon to be notified as soon as new videos are posted. You can also follow me on Facebook and Twitter, and if you'd like, you can support this channel on Patreon. Links to all of this can be found in the description below. This is TheKephas. Until next time.